Welcome to Reality by Design. Our series, Gone Too Soon, focuses on those young people who have made an impact on our lives in the short time that they've been with us. These are our beloved youth who left us far too soon. When a loved one dies, unless they're very old or sick, the first question we ask is, why? When our loved one is young, healthy, vibrant, and has their entire life ahead of them, we feel robbed and are haunted by the life that should have been. We experience true horror, shock, grief, and excruciating heartbreak. Saoirse Roisin Hill was a Kennedy, and the Kennedy family was viewed by many as American royalty. It is because of her membership in this clan that we now know her name, but it is because of her strength and bravery that we now know her message. Although I was mostly a happy child, she writes, I suffered bouts of deep sadness that felt like a heavy boulder on my chest. These bouts would come and go, but they did not outwardly affect me until I was a new sophomore at Deerfield. Her very Irish Gaelic name, Saoirse, means freedom. It became popular with patriotic Irish parents in the 1920s. Her middle name, Roisin, befittingly means Little Rose. Let's look at some fast facts about Saoirse. Saoirse was studying mass media and communication at Boston College and was due to graduate with the class of 2020. I seek a career where I can merge my studies with my interest in politics and contribute to the national dialogue on the interests that are most important to me through TV, radio, music, and film. One of her professors recently stated, in classes, she was often the first student to offer an opinion on readings that demanded clear critique about the challenges of contemporary society. Tragically, her life was cut short on August 1st, 2019, when a 911 call reported a possible overdose at one of the 3 houses in the Kennedy compound, Hyannis Port, Massachusetts. There is no definitive cause of death right now, but an autopsy has been performed indicating no trauma or suspicions of foul play. The wait is for the toxicology report, as well as more information about who was in the house and who interacted with Saoirse and what they know about her death. In order to get a better understanding of this young lady, we need to understand her background. Since this is a mini-series meant to focus on her brief life, we will not spend too much time on the other members of the family. The history of the Kennedy family is rich, controversial, colorful, tragic, exceptional, unparalleled, and full of service to this country. Her great-grandparents, Joseph and Rose Kennedy, made a fortune and created a dynasty. The Irish Catholic American couple had a total of 9 children, 4 boys and 5 girls. Except for Rosemary, whose story you can research, all of these children became leaders and pioneers in their own right. Joe and Kathleen served and died in the military. John became President of the United States. Bobby served as U.S. Attorney General under his brother, the President, and later became a U.S. Senator and presidential candidate. Edward was a U.S. Senator for many years. Eunice, a philanthropist, founded the Special Olympics. Jean served as U.S. Ambassador to Ireland. Pat became a producer of the first cooking program on network TV and later founded the National Committee for the Literary Arts. The eldest Kennedy child, Joe, was slated to become the first American Catholic president, but tragically died serving in the Navy during World War II as a land-based patrol bomber pilot. He volunteered for a top-secret mission with a drone plane full of explosives. The plane blew up before the two pilots could eject, and Joe died. The cause of the two explosions were never determined. The three surviving brothers, John, Bobby, and Ted, served their country in ways too numerous to mention here. John F. Kennedy was a much-beloved president whose death shocked the nation and the world, changing the course of this country forever. His life was ended by 2 bullets on November 22, 1963. Ted was known for his oratorial skills and served the great state of Massachusetts in the U.S. Senate for almost 47 years before succumbing to brain cancer at age 77. As the first sibling of a president to ever serve as a U.S. Attorney General, Bobby Kennedy turned out to be one of the greatest attorney generals in history, if not the greatest. He is known for fighting organized crime, his work for civil rights, and as a committed advocate for the poor and disenfranchised. He was also a strong opponent to the Vietnam War. Bobby Kennedy was assassinated while running for the office of President of the United States on June 6, 1968. At 91, his wife Ethel Kennedy is still living in Hyannis Port in the same house where her granddaughter Saoirse was found unresponsive. Mrs. Kennedy bore and raised 11 children. The last child, Rory, was born months after her father was gunned down in California. In the senator's honor, Mrs. Kennedy later founded the Robert F. Kennedy Center for Justice and Human Rights. For Saoirse's parents, this is a particularly devastating loss because she was a much-loved only child. Her mother, Courtney, the 5th child of Bobby and Ethel, met her husband, Paul Hill, in Ireland. Mary Courtney Kennedy was only 11 years old when her father was assassinated, so she was forced to grow up without him. She worked at the Children's Television Network. She studied Irish history at Trinity College in Dublin, Ireland. She met her second husband, Paul Hill, in 1993 and married him aboard a yacht that was sailing in the Aegean Sea. They separated in 2006. Paul Hill grew up in Belfast and became known as one of the Guildford Four. He was wrongly convicted for Irish Republican Army bombings of 3 pubs and the murders of 8 people in 1974. He was later exonerated and released from prison after 15 long years. He was given the longest sentence ever by a British court at that time, life with no chance of parole until great age or infirmity. The Guildford Four were the subject of an Oscar award-winning movie called In the Name of the Father. The drama You're Ever Loving is based on the prison letters penned by Hill during his time in prison. He met his wife Courtney while free on bail and married her. In 2005, the Guildford Four received an unprecedented apology from British Prime Minister David Cameron. Paul currently works as a human rights campaigner. In 2007, when Saoirse was 10, she had a harrowing experience and believed that two men in a white van who had pulled up beside her wanted to abduct her. She ran away, and catastrophe was averted. While attending a private high school, she bravely wrote an article about her experiences with depression that was published in the school newspaper. This article addresses several sensitive issues, especially for teenagers. If we listen carefully to her words, we will gain a wealth of information from the perspective of a young person who bore her soul. We are only reading a few excerpts. For her complete article, go to deerfieldscroll.com. My depression took root in the beginning of my middle school years and will be with me for the rest of my life. My sense of well-being was already compromised, and I totally lost it after someone I knew and loved broke serious sexual boundaries with me. I did the worst thing a victim can do, and I pretended it hadn't happened. This all became too much, and I attempted to take my own life. I realized that I could not handle the stresses Deerfield presented. I went to treatment for my depression and returned to the valley for my senior year. I didn't care that students thought that I had left because of an eating disorder or that I had been bullied, but it concerned me that my teachers and advisors didn't know what I had been going through. If they had reached out to me, I would have let them know that I wanted my circumstances shared with my teachers and advisors before I returned to campus. This would have made my transition back a lot easier. Take note of Saoirse's sound advice to us about what to say to someone who opens up about their depression. A good way to respond would be, what are some of the things you're feeling? What do you think has brought this on? If you don't feel comfortable saying either of those, say, I don't understand what you're going through, but I'm here for support. Too often, people speak before they think, and that can damage the trust in a relationship. If someone confides in you, try not to say, it's all in your mind, or lighten up, or my personal favorite, happiness is a choice. No, it's really not. When I'm in a really bad place, I do my best to surround myself with positive people and upbeat music. But too often it feels as if I'm drowning in my own thoughts while everyone else seems to be breathing comfortably. There have always been unsolved mysteries surrounding the deaths and tragedies that befall the Kennedy clan. Saoirse's death may be no different. We may never know the answers to the questions we currently have. The Kennedy curse is a term used for the series of untimely deaths and calamities that continue to befall this family. Too many family members have died young and or under mysterious and suspicious circumstances. Many of their deaths still have unanswered questions. Statistically, the catastrophes that this family endures appear to be improbable. Some skeptics, however, believe that these types of tragedies can befall any large extended family. We are not so certain about that. Their deaths include assassinations, multiple plane crashes, drug overdose, suicide, and other accidents stemming back to World War II. Gematria is a numerical system by which letters correspond to numbers and are then used to interpret events. You can visit the website Gematria Effect News to see the video about Saoirse's death and how it's interpreted numerologically and how it may fit into the other deaths and tragedies of the Kennedy family. Her last days appeared to be happy ones, full of love and laughter with her family in Hyannis Port. Her uncle, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., recently posted this photo of Saoirse on Instagram. Saoirse was fierce, both in her love for her family and yearning for justice. A fearless adventurer, she inspired curiosity and daring in her friends. But her greatest gift was to find humor in everything and to give us all the gift of her laughter and our own. Our hearts are shattered by the loss of our beloved Saoirse. Her life was filled with hope, promise, and love. She cared deeply about friends and family, especially her mother Courtney, her father Paul, her stepmother Stephanie, and her grandmother Ethel. We will love her and miss her forever. Saoirse's lasting legacy will be her article on mental illness and depression, while touching on sex abuse, bullying, and suicide. We should share it and learn from it. She opened the door for peers to also come out and not feel shamed by this illness, and she is a real hero in my family. She broke the silence, and we mourn her loss, but her memory will live on as someone who wasn't going to keep silent and wasn't going to be feeling as if she had something shameful, but rather something medical that she sought treatment for. Representative Robert Kennedy Jr. The world is a little less beautiful today. Ethel Kennedy. We are all either struggling or know someone who is battling an illness. Let's come together to make our community more inclusive and comfortable.